Hello, and welcome to the Science for Sleepy. Tonight, we drift together beneath the rustling hush of leaves and shadows into a place where the forest breathes slowly and nothing moves too fast. A place where trees, still and silent by day, reveal their hidden lives by night. You are not alone here. We walk softly, wrapped in the scent of damp moss and cooling bark, the canopy above parting like a dream just beginning. If you're new here, subscribe for more soft science to lull you into rest. Gently tap the like button to help others find this sleepy corner of the cosmos, and before you fully drift away, leave a comment below with your location and the time where you are right now. Let us know where you're listening from. It's always night somewhere. We begin here, where the forest exhales. Have you ever felt the temperature fall just after sunset? It isn't just your skin noticing. The trees feel it too. As daylight vanishes and the shadows deepen, the trees begin to shift in ways you cannot see but can almost feel if you're quiet enough. Their breathing changes, not like lungs, not like mammals, but something slower, older. Trees don't inhale oxygen, they pull in carbon dioxide, and at night, their priorities change. The photosynthesis that filled their days goes silent, and other processes stir. The rhythm of the forest's breath at night is slower, cooler. Moisture rises from the soil and the air thickens gently with the scent of bark, resin, and deep root. Listen. There's a hush in the branches above you. The leaves, once angled for sunlight, begin to slacken, some folding down slightly. You may not see it, but across the globe scientists have watched whole crowns of trees lower by centimeters in the night, only to rise again at dawn. Like the forest itself is bowing into rest. But this isn't sleep in the way we think of it. This is a different kind of quiet. One shaped by chemistry and sunlight memory. When the sun departs, chloroplasts retreat deeper into cells. The pressure in stems begins to drop, and the trees, thousands of them side by side, begin to speak in a slower language. You feel it, don't you? The cooling of your skin, the soft compression of air. The light isn't just gone, it's changed. Moonlight and starlight reflect off leaves in silver and indigo hues, casting quiet shadows that stretch but do not dance. The forest is less a place and more a feeling now, one that asks nothing of you but presence. Somewhere, an owl adjusts its wing. Somewhere, roots deepen. You may think of night as empty, but the trees do not. They shift into their second life, one beneath the lightless sky. It's a life where growth slows, where water changes course, where signals no longer race upward toward the sun but drift sideways, across roots, across time. We step gently now. Our feet press into damp earth, softened from the day's warmth. We pass a birch, its white bark glinting, faintly, like cracked porcelain in the dark. Beside it, a hemlock leans slightly east, as it has for decades. These are not just trees, they are timelines, standing still but full of stories. At night, those stories whisper more freely, and beneath it all, oxygen. You may not notice, but trees, even in darkness, shape the very air you breathe. A forest at night isn't just breathing less, it's exhaling different things. The carbon exchange slows, but transpiration continues. Water still evaporates through leaf pores, adjusting pressure, temperature, and air density. And in that faint mist, there are chemicals, molecules, signals. Many trees release scents only after dark. They aren't for you. They're for moths, for bats, for nighttime pollinators that emerge like soft ideas after a long silence. But you breathe them in too, those invisible threads. linalool, sesquiterpenes, subtle vapours that lace the night and tell the forest what time it is. There's no urgency here. We walk slowly, and the trees do not move aside, but they welcome you just the same. You feel it in your chest, how your breathing slows, how your steps fall into the same rhythm as the falling dew. Something in you recognizes the quiet logic of the forest sleep, and still, above us, the leaves shift. Tiny motors in each cell, actin filaments and cytoskeletal threads, adjust their tension. Millions of microscopic decisions all leading to one sensation: rest. You're surrounded by trees that are, in a way, letting go. They are not unconscious. They do not dream as we do, but their state changes. Biochemical processes shut down or reroute. Some species lower their metabolic rate. Others close their stomata, conserving moisture. It is a time of pause, of recalibration. It is the moment the forest takes a long breath in and holds it. You look up. The stars are barely visible, filtered through high branches and a rising veil of mist. But you know they're there, just as you know the trees around you, silent, enormous, gentle, are still living, even as they rest. Especially as they rest. You reach out to touch a low-hanging branch. The leaves are cool, slightly damp. They do not flinch. They are not asleep in the way we understand, but in another rhythm entirely, one older than animals, deeper than heartbeat. And as we walk further into this midnight woodland, we begin to wonder, what else happens when the sun is gone? What quiet lives unfold in root, bark, and leaf? We are only beginning. The forest has not stopped. It has only changed its language. Let's listen. Have you ever seen a leaf fold itself for the night? Not from wind, not from weight, but from something quieter. The pull of absence, the soft invitation of darkness. You may not notice it on your evening walks, but some leaves, especially in younger saplings and herbaceous trees, subtly curl inward or droop when the sun disappears. Not because they're tired, because they are listening to light, to rhythm, to the deep pulse of time. It's called nyctinasty, the sleep movements of leaves. And though the term may sound clinical, the gesture feels almost human, like a hand folding in prayer or a body wrapping itself in the soft quiet of a blanket. The leaves are responding to their internal clock, a circadian rhythm not unlike your own, tuned over millennia to the daily waltz of light and dark. Picture it now, a small tree in the undergrowth, a redbud perhaps, its heart-shaped leaves facing upward all day long, catching light like gentle solar sails. But now, with dusk thickening around it, those same leaves begin to dip slightly. The cells at their base, in a small structure called the pulvinus, change their internal water pressure. They release just enough tension to shift position, not wilting but bowing, not sleeping but sensing. We walk beneath branches where this is happening all around us. The trees do not announce it. They don't creak or sway. But if you could time-lapse the canopy over hours, you'd see a rhythm, a breathing, as leaves open wide by day and slowly, softly close at night. In legumes and tropical trees, the movement is more dramatic. Some fold their leaflets completely, tucking in like sleeping birds. Biologists have watched this for centuries and still find wonder in it, in the quiet choreography of a forest reacting not to noise or wind but to the silence of nightfall. Ask yourself, what signals tell a leaf the sun is gone? Not light alone. Even artificial light can sometimes confuse these rhythms. It's temperature, humidity, a cascade of hormones, especially one called phytochrome, that acts like a light switch inside the plant. When the sun sets, That switch flips, cells shift, water moves, and the tree adjusts its posture to the new reality. The world is dark now, but there is no panic. There is no haste. Trees have seen more nights than we will ever count. Their nightly movements are not reactions, they are rituals. We pass an acacia now. By day, its compound leaves fan out to soak in every ray of sun. But as you watch, if you are still enough, you notice some of its tiny leaflets are folding inward, like books gently closing for the night. It is not visible to the rushing world, but here, in the slow time of the forest, we can see it and feel it. This movement does more than conserve energy. It protects the plant. Closed leaves reduce water loss. They reduce visibility to nighttime herbivores. And perhaps, just perhaps, they offer the plant a kind of rest, not of mind, but of function. Photosynthesis is done. Light is no longer the language. The tree must speak now in another tongue, one of roots and chemicals and the careful management of resources in the dark. You feel it again, that deep pull towards stillness. Your own limbs grow heavier as you walk beneath this silent folding canopy, not in exhaustion, but in alignment, like your body understands, as the trees do, that this is the hour of letting go, of turning inward. Imagine now a world without artificial light, no cities, no street lamps, just forests and stars. In such a world, the nyctinastic dance of leaves would be one of the most widespread nighttime motions on Earth. Millions upon millions of leaves, all tilting, drooping, folding, under the guidance of moonlight and memory. We arrive at a clearing now. Here, moonlight spills freely, brushing the tops of sleeping saplings. You kneel beside one, a young tamarind, and its leaves have folded into themselves like feathery fingers. At its base, tiny pulvini still hum with water movement, a slow pump driven by tides deeper than thought. This is not a performance. It is not for us. But we are allowed to witness it, and as you look up at the trees towering around you, oaks, beeches, maples, you know that not all show these movements. Some stay outward, some appear unchanged, but within, their chemistry shifts, their language changes, their very posture toward the world adjusts. The forest is not asleep, it is simply practicing a different way of being awake. And you, moving gently through this leafy dream, are beginning to do the same. So ask yourself, when do you fold your leaves? When do you release the tight posture of the day? The trees do it every night without apology, and tonight, walking with them, maybe you can too. There is something inside the trunk you cannot see. It does not shine, it does not glow, but it moves, in pulses, in tides, in spirals so slow they become silence. As you pass your hand gently along the bark of a tree, rough or smooth, sap slick or dry, know that just beneath your palm a secret flow is adjusting to the night. The sap, that lifeblood of the tree, begins to shift its rhythm. The heartwood stays still, the core immutable, but the outer layers, the cambium and phloem, begin their subtle nighttime murmuring. Let us listen. This is not the rushing sound of a river, not the drumming of a heartbeat. It is something fainter, like breath through old paper, like thought before it becomes language. The tree, now beyond photosynthesis, no longer needs to chase the sun. Its vascular system, the network of living tubes that move water, nutrients, sugars, becomes less vertical and more inward. During the day, water must climb, from root to crown, against gravity, pulled by the heat of the sun and the hunger of the leaves. But at night, the pressure changes. The demand slows. The entire column breathes differently. Inside the xylem, those tiny capillary channels that move water upward, the pull lessens. Cohesion, tension, capillary action. They don't stop, but they relax. Some species reduce transpiration drastically. Others continue quietly, drawing in cool night moisture from soil that has finally exhaled its heat. But deeper still, the phloem, the part that moves sugars and signaling molecules, continues its work, a quiet courier between root and leaf, between memory and action. Have you ever imagined the tree as a listener? Not with ears, but with sap, a conductor of inner weather, a translator of soil and sky. Sap is more than water. It is full of sugars made from sunlight, minerals from the earth, hormones that regulate growth and healing. And in the night, sap becomes language. The tree whispers to itself. A branch sends news to the roots. We are no longer in sun. The roots reply, the soil is cooler now. More water is available. A leaf transmits a chemical sigh. We have folded. We are resting. And the whole tree adjusts. You touch the bark again, knowing this time what lies beneath. Not nerves, like in animals. Not neurons or blood. But a living system all the same, responsive and sensitive. Trees respond to gravity, touch, heat, sound, even chemical signatures from other plants. And at night, their sensitivity is heightened, no longer distracted by light's demands. Some scientists believe that certain trees pulse faintly. Microhydraulic pulses, not heartbeats, not timed, but arising from the shifting balance of water pressure, a kind of tremor that may move in waves, a soundless rhythm that rises from the roots and shivers into branches. You imagine it now. Standing still under a maple, you close your eyes and try to feel it, that deep motion, invisible and slow. The bark, against your fingers, holds the history of seasons. The cambium within remembers the last drought. The phloem carries sugar made from a long-lost summer, and the xylem hums with water drawn up hours ago from a root you'll never see. It is a body unlike yours, but it is a body, and it lives, and it listens, and in the dark it speaks most clearly. We keep walking, but now your pace has changed. You move with more weight in your step, not fatigue, but rootedness, a feeling of growing downward. The forest at night encourages this. It turns your awareness not outward, but inward, downward, into the bark, the veins, the ground. Here, another tree stands before you, tall, old, a beech with bark like elephant skin. You kneel beside it. You listen. Imagine if we could hear sap move, not through machines, not through instruments, but through senses sharpened by stillness. What would it sound like? A low hum, a long exhale, a slow creaking melody of moisture finding its way through wood. Inside this beech, sugars made by leaves days ago are moving downward, not falling, but transported, flowing toward roots that will store them. The energy of sunlight captured in a green flutter and now descending unseen through cells that live only to carry. And when trees are wounded, scraped by antler, gnawed by beetle, they send chemical signals through these same channels, warnings, instructions, defenses, even at night, especially at night, because the forest is not idle in the dark, it is vigilant. The bark may seem inert, but beneath its layers, motion, a whisper network of hormones, toxins, sugars, and memory. And as you step away from the beach, you realize we speak of the forest as quiet, but it is not voiceless. We speak of trees as still, but they are not unmoved. They are only speaking in the tempo of sap, too slow for clocks, too ancient for alarms. And tonight, you're learning their language. You breathe in. The air is cooler now, heavier with forest scent, and as you exhale, the tree exhales too, not in sound, but in pulse, a shared silence, a shared life. Beneath our feet, a second forest lives, not of trunks and branches, but of roots, pale, winding, tender as veins, wrapped in earth and mystery, a web that mirrors the canopy above, yet lives in near total dark. And it is here, in the root world, that the night becomes most alive. We step softly now. The ground is damp with twilight moisture. Each footfall presses lightly into soil that breathes, not in gasps but in cycles. Here, roots stretch, divide, listen, and at night they are at their busiest. What pulls a root forward? There is no eye to see, no muscle to push, and yet some roots grow centimetres in the space of a single dark hour, not randomly, not blindly, but with subtle awareness. Roots sense gradients, of water, of temperature, of nutrients. They follow warmth, they taste calcium, they flee salt, and at night, without the distraction of feeding a sunlit canopy, many trees divert their energy downward, into exploration, into growth, into the strange intelligence of soil. We crouch beside a young ash tree. Its roots are barely thicker than twine, but they're not alone. Intertwined with them are strands finer than silk, fungal filaments, thinner than hair, bright white if you could see them, mycorrhizae. They are not tree, not fungus, but both, a partnership older than flowers, a silent mutual pact that says, you give me sugars and I will give you the world, water, phosphorus, protection, even connection to other trees. And at night, this network thrives. The sugars made during the day, the remnants of light, are pushed downward into the roots. The tree feeds its fungi. The fungi in turn stretch outward, threading through the soil in search of what the tree cannot reach. They bind to pebbles, they soften clay, they unlock nutrients buried deep within rock and loam, but more than that, they link. Beneath your feet, one tree is connected to another. Signals pass between them, a drought warning, a chemical distress call, a gentle nudge. This one is young. Feed her. These are not metaphors. They are measurable exchanges tracked through isotopes and tagged compounds. But science cannot tell us everything. Not about meaning, not about the feeling of it. You close your eyes, and in your mind you see it. A root, pale as milk, extending through the dark. It branches, it forks, it finds a fungal thread, and through that, another root, another tree, a forest of roots talking without sound. Not all roots seek out this connection, but many do, and some trees, like beeches and Douglas firs, form what scientists call hub networks, central, elder trees that support younger ones, redistributing carbon and knowledge through the earth. At night, those hubs become anchors of underground life. Their roots do not sleep. They stretch, they send, they remember, because roots, like rings, hold history. If a flood came 50 years ago, the roots remember. If fire licked the soil, they remember. If a neighbouring tree died, they adjust, taking in more or giving away more. And so we walk, slowly, reverently, across the hidden memory of the forest. With every step you brush above 1,000 thoughts in root form, not fast, not loud, but alive. There is also moisture. The soil sweats at night. As the temperature drops, humidity rises. Dew forms on leaves, yes, but it also sinks into the ground, recharging the spaces between soil particles, and the roots respond. They swell gently. They draw in water not by suction, but by delicate osmotic invitation. Cell walls shift, molecules move, and the forest drinks. It's easy to forget that trees must hydrate in the dark. We imagine thirst as a daytime thing, sun beating, water lost. But hydration is often most efficient at night, when temperatures are low and evaporation slows. Roots can drink without panic, without competition, slowly, deeply. You kneel now and place a hand on the ground. It is warm from the day, but cooling, alive. The smell of earth rises, fungal, mineral, a trace of iron and ash. You're not just smelling dirt, you're inhaling the conversation of roots. It is humbling. Because here, where no leaves flutter and no sun shines, the true scaffolding of the forest is built. What stands tall above must begin here, in the dark, in the patient seeking of root through stone, through silence, through time. We move on, and with each step remember this. Every tree you see is twice as large beneath the surface, not in wood, not in mass, but in meaning, in movement, in memory. And as the night deepens, the root world only becomes more awake. Beneath the forest floor, far from moonlight and leaf, a conversation begins, not with words, not with sound, but with chemistry, subtle, ancient, precise. It is here, in this subterranean web of roots and fungi, that trees speak their clearest truths, and at night, those whispers carry farther. We return to the mycorrhizal network. Think of it not as a tangle of filaments, but as a forest beneath the forest, delicate threads of fungal hyphae extending from root to root, binding soil, bridging species. This is not metaphor, it is physical, living, verified through isotopes and microscopy, and still it feels like magic. The mycorrhizae are not guests, they are partners. A tree offers carbon, sugars shaped from sunlight, piped downward in the dark. The fungus in return offers access to phosphor, to nitrogen, to rare metals, even to warning signals. And here, in this shared dark, the conversation begins. A spruce, recently wounded by insect attack, releases stress chemicals into its roots. The fungi pick them up, not by accident, but by design, and transmit them to other trees. The message travels through the network. Danger is near. Be ready. Within hours, nearby trees begin to adjust. They strengthen their bark. They produce bitter compounds in their leaves. They prepare because they were told. All of this happens without sunlight, without speech, without sound, and it is most active at night. You may wonder, why now? Because during the day, trees focus on photosynthesis, on growing upward, on feeding the canopy. But at night, attention turns downward, to redistribution, to repair, to cooperation. There are no predators in the root world, no mouths, no teeth, only hunger of another kind, the hunger to grow, to reach, to belong. And fungi know this hunger better than any other. Some filaments extend for kilometers. A single fungal organism in Oregon is estimated to stretch over 3 miles, the largest known living being on Earth. It lives underground, attached to trees it does not kill, but collaborates with, sharing, shaping. You step gently above it now. Imagine, beneath your heel, a signal may be moving, a flicker of distress from one pine to another, a quiet invitation from an oak to its saplings, even a gift, excess carbon sent from a strong elder to a shaded child. Because trees do give, not all the time, not without reason, but when needed, especially when young trees are struggling to establish, and this too is clearest in the dark. We stop near a cluster of birches. By daylight they are almost indistinguishable, but at night their root systems glow with difference. Some are dominant, connected to dozens of others. Some are peripheral, some are recipients, others donors, but all are part of a pattern that no eye can see, only mind. In this world, kinship matters. Mother trees, a term used not romantically, but scientifically, tend to favour their own offspring. Their roots stretch further to find their young. They allocate more sugar. They send protective signals faster, not as emotion, but as evolutionary intelligence, a way to ensure continuity. You kneel again, pressing a palm to the earth. What does it mean for a forest to care? It does not mourn with tears, it does not cradle its young, but it allocates resources, it adjusts strategies, it shares, selectively, deliberately, it remembers. In the mycorrhizal world, memory is stored not in cells, but in behaviour. Trees once exposed to pathogens will react faster next time, not just alone, but across the network. Their neighbours learn from their wounds, their descendants grow stronger in their shadows, and all of this unfolds in silence. And all of it intensifies at night, because the absence of light is not absence of life. It is only the beginning of a different language, and you are learning to listen. We continue walking, the moss soft beneath our feet, the night growing thicker. A light fog begins to form, pooling in the hollows like breath held too long. You feel your own roots now, not literal but imagined, stretching gently into this shared dark, reaching for something ancient, quiet, shared. The trees do not move, but they are never still. They are listening to each other through fungi. They are warning each other through sugar. They are remembering through root and thread. And here, beneath everything, they are never alone. Neither are you. Somewhere above, the moon passes behind a slow-moving cloud. The forest darkens, not in threat, but in hush. A deeper silence settles in, as if the trees are turning inward again, adjusting to a darker kind of dark. And somewhere in the canopy, tiny pores begin to close. These are stomata, the breath gates of the forest. On every leaf, thousands of them, invisible to the eye, flicker open and shut in response to the world. And though they are small, each just a few micrometers wide, their role is immense. They are the lungs of the tree, the windows between the world within and the air without. In daylight, stomata are wide open. They drink in carbon dioxide. They exhale oxygen and water vapour. They keep the leaf alive and the planet breathing. But at night, everything changes. Without sunlight, photosynthesis halts. The demand for carbon dioxide drops. The energy shifts from production to preservation, and the stomata begin to close, not all at once, not in lockstep, but leaf by leaf, species by species, moment by moment. It is not silence, but modulation. Some trees, especially those in humid tropical regions, keep their stomata slightly ajar. The night is not dry there. Moisture abounds. They can afford to breathe slowly, even in darkness. But others, especially in arid zones or cool mountain forests, shut them tight, guarding against evaporation, conserving every drop. Tonight, in this temperate woodland, we see both. You pause beneath a maple, its leaves wide like open hands. By moonlight you cannot see the stomata. They are too small, too many, but you can feel their presence. The leaf in your palm is cool, slightly damp. It has exhaled into the air, faint moisture, invisible breath. Imagine standing inside a cathedral of breathing walls. That's what the forest is in a way. Not in the spiritual sense, though some may feel that, but in the scientific one. You're surrounded by surfaces that breathe, that respond to light, temperature, humidity, that adjust themselves not once, but constantly. Trees do not breathe with rhythm, like lungs. They breathe with circumstance, and when the light disappears, they reconfigure. Inside each leaf, guard cells curl around each stoma. These cells are the gatekeepers. When filled with water, they swell, opening the pore. When they lose water, they collapse, sealing it. The process is passive and active, chemical, hydraulic, beautiful. At night the message arrives. There is no more light. Hold your breath. And the guard cells respond, but not always to darkness alone. Stomatal behavior is shaped by many forces: internal water levels, hormonal signals, even signals from roots that warn of drought, disease, or damage. The entire tree from tip to taproot weighs its options, and then decides how much and when to breathe. You walk beneath a sycamore now, its large broad leaves drooping slightly in the night. These leaves, so powerful in sunlight, are now retreating into silence. Their stomata have closed, their breath has paused, and yet the tree is alive, deeply alive. There is something deeply calming about this idea, that every leaf holds thousands of mouths, and every mouth makes a choice, and those choices keep the forest in balance. You begin to breathe in rhythm with this unseen exchange. Inhale, like a stomatal opening. Exhale, like a release of water vapor. Stillness, like the moment when the guard cells settle and silence reigns. This is not static. It is dynamic quiet. It is the quiet of activity without motion, of life below the threshold of sound. You wonder now, how much of your own breath is made from this dance? The oxygen you inhale tonight may have left a leaf only hours ago, exhaled into the evening just before the pores shut. The forest is not a past contributor to your breath. It is a current one. Its chemistry enters your lungs, your blood, your brain. You and the trees are locked in a silent mutual ceremony. They give, you take, you give, they take, all through breath, all through pores smaller than a pin's eye. And though the forest seems to sleep, it is only shifting its breath inward. This exchange, carbon for oxygen, sugar for water, continues, but more gently, like a whisper beneath a whisper. You touch a trembling aspen. Its leaves, so quick to flutter by day, are still now. The stomata here are sealed tight, conserving precious moisture, but their memory lingers. Their rhythm is not broken, only slowed. And in that slow breath, you hear a truth. Rest is not absence, it is adjustment, and the forest too knows when to rest. We continue our walk in darkness. The fog is thicker now, condensing on branches. The air smells clean, almost sterile, like rain before it arrives. But it is not sterile. It is filled with the remnants of exhalation, the forest's last breath before the long inhale of night. And you are inside that breath, moving slowly, like a single cell in the lung of the world. The forest, now fully settled into night, does not sleep in unison. You might imagine that every tree in every direction shares a single rhythm, folding leaves, closing stomata, stilling sap. But the truth is gentler, more complex. Just as no two dreams are the same, no two trees share the exact same night. Some sleep, some wait, some never fully close their eyes. Let us pause beneath 3 different trees, a birch, a cedar, and a ginkgo. The birch, slender and light-loving, has entered a kind of rest. Its leaf movement has slowed, its stomata mostly closed. The roots have downshifted their intake. Metabolically, the birch is coasting, still alive, still aware, but quiet, efficient, resting. The cedar beside it is a different story, an evergreen built for endurance. Its needles, dark and waxy, keep working even after the sun has gone. Though reduced, its respiration remains steady. Its wax-coated stomata resist water loss, so it keeps absorbing and releasing gases at a low, controlled level. The cedar does not rest. it simply persists. And the ginkgo, that ancient fan-leaf survivor from the age of dinosaurs, it exists somewhere in between, not quite dormant, not quite alert. Its nighttime behavior seems to vary, sometimes folding its leaves subtly, sometimes standing still. It listens more than it breathes, a watcher. What determines whether a tree sleeps or not? It isn't a single switch. It is species, it is climate, it is ancestry, soil, weather, age, light exposure, and biochemical thresholds honed over millennia. In tropical forests, where light cycles are short and consistent, many trees do exhibit clear nyctinastic behavior, rhythmic leaf movement in response to light and darkness. They sleep like petals closing at dusk. But in colder regions where nights are longer or seasons fluctuate, trees adapt differently. Some reduce activity drastically. Others shift into a nighttime version of day, quieter but not paused. This diversity of sleep is not a failure of design. It is the very definition of adaptation. Like animals, like humans, no two trees manage rest the same way. Some require stillness, some require vigilance, some hover always between both. And all of it, unfolds in silence. But if we could listen closely, not with ears but with sensors with chemical eyes, we would see the complexity of it. Enzymes switching roles, mitochondria rebalancing, hormones moving from crown to root and back again, proteins adjusting shape in the dark, thousands of changes per second, invisible to the eye but absolutely vital. Even the way trees age through the night differs. Old trees tend to shift their metabolism more dramatically. They rest more deeply, conserve more. Younger trees often stay more active, still growing, still learning the rhythms of darkness. It's as if the forest holds both wisdom and energy at once. The steady stillness of elders and the restless learning of the young. We pause now near a clearing where saplings grow. They are only a few years old, knee-high, spindly, curious, and even in the dark they fidget. Their leaves twitch slightly, their stems lean, adjusting to micro-changes in air and light. They are not sleeping deeply. They are too new, too hungry, and nearby, a great oak, older than generations, stands motionless. It is not dead. It is not even dormant. But it is still. Its cells have slowed. Its respiration has dipped. Its roots have reduced their pull. It waits. Not passively, but patiently. The oak knows this cycle. It has seen more than 1,000 full moons, and in each one it has shifted just enough, resting, remembering, preparing. There is a dignity in this stillness. You stand between the two, the twitching saplings and the silent giant, and realize the forest is not one organism, it is a choir of lives, each with its own tempo, and at night that choir continues to sing, some voices loud, some soft, some quiet to the point of vanishing, but none silent. Even the sleeping trees are not unconscious. They respond to temperature. They track the movement of the moon. They measure time, not with clocks but with hormones like melatonin, produced in tiny doses as darkness stretches on. Yes, even trees possess something like melatonin. In animals, it governs sleep. In plants, it acts as an antioxidant, a signal, a protector. Its levels rise in darkness, not to induce slumber, but to manage stress, to regulate energy, to orchestrate rest. And so, while trees do not dream, they do drift into altered states. Their cells behave differently, their organs reprioritize, their metabolism softens, they wait. And in this waiting, they grow in secret ways, not taller, not wider, but deeper, more resilient, more knowing. We resume our walk, now entirely in darkness. The moon has not returned. The air is cool, dense with leaf scent and earth. Around us, trees in every state, sleeping, watching, waiting, hold their place in the stillness. You breathe slowly, in, outside, like the cedar, like the oak, like the birch folded into itself. The forest is not asleep. It is listening inward, and so are you. We arrive now at a grove where light has not touched for hours. No moon, no stars, only a darkness so deep it feels like velvet, thick enough to slow thought, to soften the edges of memory. And it's here, in the deepest dark, that trees begin their secret repairs. Because night is not just a time of stillness, it is a time of healing. All day, trees endure wind, heat, insect bites, scratches from birds, ultraviolet radiation, microscopic tears in leaves, tiny fractures in cell walls, and yet they do not cry out. They do not retreat. They wait for night, for silence, for restoration. We stop beside a dogwood, its low limbs curved like arms around a shadowed path. You can't see them, but right now, deep within its tissues, an orchestra of enzymes is at work, repairing, replenishing, reshaping what the day wore down. Imagine now, a leaf cell, sun-drenched all day, has taken in more light than it could use. Some of that light became heat, some became damage, proteins warped, membranes stressed, chloroplasts, the tiny green engines of photosynthesis, flickered with exhaustion. But the tree did not panic. It waited for this hour. In the absence of light, chloroplasts now begin to clean house. Damaged proteins are broken down. New ones are synthesized. Antioxidants flood in. Scavengers remove fragments of broken molecules. And slowly, silently, the cell heals. This happens not just in leaves, but throughout the tree. Tiny cracks in the cambium begin to reseal. Oxidative stress in roots is reduced. Excess reactive molecules are swept away like dust from a quiet room. Trees, like animals, experience oxidative stress, an overload of highly reactive compounds caused by environmental pressure. And just like us, they counter it with built-in defenses: melatonin, peroxidases, flavonoids, a suite of chemical guardians that rise when the light retreats. Night is when the cleanup crew comes out. You run your hand along a low branch, rough with bark and moss. That branch may be storing starches now. Sugars made earlier in the day, now being moved into roots or converted into cellulose. Or it may be sending those sugars to wounded cells in need of energy. The tree decides. Not consciously, but precisely. The forest is filled with choices like this, not loud ones, not fast ones, but critical, life-shaping decisions made in molecules per second. You think of your own body, how cuts heal more rapidly during sleep, how memory consolidates, how cells perform maintenance when the mind dreams. Trees, too, are performing the quiet work of repair while we drift beneath their canopy. In tropical forests, some species even grow most actively at night. In desert climates, growth must occur when it's cool. In temperate zones, repair may take precedence over expansion. But in all ecosystems, the night brings restoration. And not only for damage, night also offers space to reshape. Cell walls stretch just slightly. Vascular tissues reinforce their structure. Roots reroute their growth ever so slightly in response to signals, perhaps toward a patch of moist earth newly rich in nutrients. Trees do not sleep, but they do recalibrate, and in some cases, they change their architecture in these hours. You pass under a sycamore with a forked trunk. One branch leans into the path, the other away. This asymmetry may not be accidental. All night long, trees make microscopic adjustments to their orientation. balancing weight, tension, strain, slowly shifting the angles of branches, the elasticity of wood fibers. Over time, those shifts become form, shape, grace. Even something as rigid seeming as wood is, in the dark, fluid. You stop to rest at the base of a massive linden. This tree is old, you can feel it. Its bark is thick and grooved, its trunk wide enough that 5 people would struggle to encircle it. You press your palm against the bark and imagine what's happening just inside. The parenchyma cells, those multi-purpose cells scattered throughout the tree's body, are active. They're absorbing nutrients, they're synthesizing compounds, they're managing waste. They are in many ways the maintenance crew of the tree, and tonight they are busy. All without eyes, all without thought, but never without purpose. And just beyond this linden a stand of young pines leans slightly toward an unseen light. They are not sleeping, they are strategizing. And somewhere inside their slender trunks, new tissue is forming, cambial cells dividing, producing xylem and phloem, laying the groundwork for tomorrow's growth, but quietly. So very quietly. Because the forest is not lazy in the dark, it is efficient, it uses what the day leaves behind. The night is a workshop, a studio, a recovery room. We walk on. Our breath is visible now in the cold air. The temperature has dropped. The dampness in the leaves has thickened into dew. Somewhere nearby, a small animal rustles through underbrush, then stills. Even the animals recognize this moment. The deep middle of night. The hour of stillness. The hour of repair. You feel it in your body too. That subtle invitation to let go, to soften, to begin your own quiet healing. Here, in the hush between root and star, something ancient mends itself, without needing to be told how. There are moments in the forest when everything aligns, not in sound, not in movement, but in presence. We reach such a moment now. The hour is late and the air is still. No wind moves the branches, no birds call, even the insects have quieted, and in this suspended silence you sense a rhythm that doesn't beat like a heart or tick like a clock. It flows like temperature, it swells like breath. Because even without light, trees move, not in strides, not in leaps, but in arcs, in sways, in faint measurable shifts of posture. Scientists have observed this with laser scanners, with time-lapse imaging, with sensitive equipment designed to detect what no eye can see. The subtle motion of trees, especially at night, as their branches lower and rise, as if in slow-motion breath. The phenomenon is called nocturnal tree movement, and it is as gentle as a sigh. Branches may droop by several centimeters, crowns may tilt slightly, leaves may hang differently, changing their orientation to the sky, and just before dawn, they rise again. Not all species do this, but many do, some in cycles, some only under specific conditions. You can't see it happen, it's too slow, but you can feel it, a kind of shifting posture in the trees around you. The forest is not as fixed as it seems. Why do trees move at night? The answer may lie in water. During the day, water is drawn upward, from soil to root to leaf, in a near-constant climb. But when stomata close and evaporation slows, the internal pressure inside the tree changes. That shift can cause branches to lower, ever so slightly, as the hydraulic tension releases. It is not collapse, it is recalibration. And in the deepest hours of night, some trees, birch, walnut, acacia, are observed to rise again, just before dawn. The movement is faint, barely perceptible, but consistent. You imagine now, the whole forest, breathing, in the slowest rhythm imaginable, an inhale that takes hours, an exhale that lasts till morning. This motion is not for show, it is function, it is balance. It may aid in internal nutrient flow. It may relieve pressure. It may prepare the tree for the coming day. And there is something else. Movement in the dark reminds us that stillness is rarely absolute. Just as roots stretch invisibly beneath us, just as sap pulses in silent spirals, just as repair unfolds without flame or sound, so too does the body of the tree shift its weight, redistributing life across bark, branch and sky. We stand now beneath a willow, its arms long and bowed. By day, those arms move in the wind. By night, they move more slowly, bending in ways too patient for weather. And perhaps, by morning, they will rise slightly, having adjusted their centre of mass, their flow of fluids, their message to the sky. Some scientists believe that these nocturnal movements are linked to circadian rhythms, the same internal clocks that guide sleep and hormone, release in animals. Yes, trees have clocks, embedded in their genes, expressed in cycles, sensitive to light and dark, heat and cold. Their circadian rhythms regulate when genes are turned on and off, when to open stomata, when to produce hormones, when to grow, when to rest. Even in complete darkness, this rhythm continues, a molecular memory of the sun. So when the forest moves at night, it is not random. It is coordinated. It is timed. It is remembered. You place your hand on a sapling stem, thin, smooth, flexible. It trembles faintly, not in fear, in flow. Inside, water is still shifting, sugars are still moving, cells are still dividing, and the tree leans, not to fall, but to follow the slow instruction of its own rhythm. You lean too, just slightly, and for a moment you match the tempo, not of the clock, but of the forest, not the rhythm of minutes, but the rhythm of moisture, of pressure, of restoration. And in this matching, you feel a weight lift, because the world of trees does not rush, it does not chase, it does not exhaust itself with speed. Instead, it shifts, it balances, it recovers, and through that, it grows. You breathe out now fully. You let your shoulders drop. You let your own body lean a little like the willow, not broken, just realigned. The forest has become a different place, not just darker, but deeper, as if with every passing hour it has drawn itself further inward, retreating into layers of stillness we do not usually see. But tonight, we are here, and now we arrive at one of the most secretive acts of the trees, their language. Nocturnal communication is not a metaphor in the forest. It is real, measurable, undeniable, even if it isn't spoken in words. And though some of this language moves underground through fungal threads and chemical roots, some moves through the air, invisible, volatile, alive. You stop beside a row of poplars. In daylight they shimmer with movement, leaves fluttering in constant dialogue with the breeze. But now those leaves are still, and yet the trees are speaking, with chemicals. These are called volatile organic compounds, VOCs. They are microscopic airborne messages. They carry warnings, signals, instructions. One tree under insect attack might release a precise blend of VOCs to say, "Danger here." And within minutes, nearby trees, even those of different species, detect the message. They respond. They begin producing protective chemicals in their leaves. They toughen their bark. They alter their own VOC emissions. They ready themselves for a threat that has not yet arrived. This form of communication doesn't sleep. In fact, it may intensify at night. Without the wind to carry these molecules away too quickly, and with cooler air keeping the vapors close to the canopy, night becomes a kind of a whisper chamber, where signals linger longer, where messages hang in the air. Some VOCs are light sensitive, some are triggered by circadian rhythms. Some are released only after midnight, and we, standing among the trees, breathe them in, without knowing it. You may be inhaling a signal of calm, office of defense, or of sweetness, attracting a moth pollinator just before dawn. Because communication is not only about alarm, trees also call, invite, share. The jasmine releases its fragrance at night, not for us, but for moths who navigate by scent. Some orchids do the same, opening only in darkness, exhaling their desires into the night air. Figs and cacti, night blooming cereus, even tobacco, each with its own signature blend of messages carried on the wind. You walk slowly now, and the air feels thicker, richer, not with fog but with scent. Not perfume, not flower, but chemistry. A language written in molecules, breathed in silence, exchanged between beings who will never move from their roots, yet still manage to connect. And it is not only plants who listen. Insects, bats, even microorganisms detect VOCs. Some follow the trails, some avoid them, some use them to guide migration, nesting, or feeding. This shared vocabulary, part biology, part ecology, creates an invisible net over the forest, and you are walking through it. Imagine now a beech tree, wounded hours ago by a grazing deer, still sending out signals, a sapling a few meters away, absorbing those signals and quietly toughening its tissues. A nearby willow, which interprets the same signals differently and shifts its chemistry not in defense, but in growth suppression, conserving energy until danger passes. Each species, each individual, interprets the language in its own way, like dialects, like accents, like tone. And yet, there is understanding. You breathe again, and wonder what messages enter your lungs. Because we are not separate from this language, we are part of it. Human bodies respond to VOCs too, not with conscious awareness, but physiologically. The scent of pine can lower blood pressure. The terpenes from cedar may reduce stress. The fragrance of linden flowers can slow the heart. These are not tricks, they are messages, from tree to animal, from forest to visitor. You exhale, and the warmth of your breath briefly fogs the cold air. You offer nothing toxic, but the forest notices and does not turn away, because even human presence becomes a part of the nocturnal exchange. We're not the speakers here, but we are the listeners. We're the ones who must remember what is said, even if we do not always understand the grammar. So we move on in silence, not out of reverence, but because the forest is already speaking. And to talk over it would be to miss something sacred. Not sacred in a holy sense, but in the original sense, set apart, quiet, worthy of listening. You pass beneath a balsam fir. Its scent is sharp, clean, not just pleasant, but informative. That sharpness, it is made of signals, terpenes that repel insects that warn other firs, that strengthen the wood itself. Even its aroma is a defense, even its presence is a message. And in this hour, when light has long gone, those messages keep moving, molecule by molecule, tree to tree, carried on nothing more than the breath of the earth, the deepest hour of night. It is not just a time on a clock, it is a sensation. The air is heaviest now, as if it has folded itself around every trunk and branch. Dew beads on needles, moss gleams in patches where no light falls. Even sound has surrendered. And beneath this quiet, trees do their strangest work. They remember. Not in thoughts, not in stories, but in chemical echoes. Trees possess a kind of memory, subtle, distributed, cellular, that allows them to recall past events, a drought, a fire, a frost, an attack, not as scenes, but as patterns written into their physiology. Let us kneel near a young alder. Its leaves are damp with dew, its branches loose, relaxed. But within, something more permanent lingers, a biochemical trace of a dry spell from seasons ago. That memory is not passive, it guides the tree's future. In its cells, epigenetic changes may have occurred, adjustments to how its genes are expressed based on what it endured. The tree becomes more cautious with water, it closes its stomata earlier on hot days, it redirects sugars differently during cold spells. It adapts, not because it calculates, but because it remembers. And night is when memory consolidates, not only in us, but in them. The cooler air allows for recalibration. Hormonal signals like abscisic acid, responsible for stress response, shift into new balances. Repair processes initiated during the day are now guided by what has happened before. The tree knows what kind of repair it needs. Nearby, a scar runs across the bark of a maple. Perhaps it was caused by a storm, perhaps by an insect that burrowed too deep. The wound has healed, mostly, but the tree has not forgotten. It has thickened that part of the bark. It has rerouted internal flows. It has developed sensitivity there, new chemical detectors, ready if the threat returns. This is not intelligence as we know it, but it is closer to wisdom, the kind earned slowly, silently, by enduring. You step past a cedar whose roots long ago encountered a patch of poisoned soil, heavy metals perhaps, industrial runoff. But instead of dying, the tree responded. It learned, chemically, to avoid that zone. It grew away from danger, and now its roots curve like a question mark in the soil, bypassing memory like we skirt around an old bruise. Even seedlings can inherit this memory, not genetically, but epigenetically, through the chemical instructions passed from mother tree to seed. If the parent endured drought, the sapling may germinate with higher drought tolerance. If the parent faced disease, the offspring may carry stronger initial defenses. What you are standing in is not just a living forest, it is a library. But the books are not made of paper, they are etched in bark, in lignin, in the coiling architecture of xylem and phloem, in branching angles, in timing shifts, in which roots go where and which do not. Every bent branch is a sentence, every scar is a record, every silent shift is a line in the journal of the canopy. You place your hand against a trunk and you realize, this tree is older than you. It will likely outlive you. It remembers things your grandparents never knew, and tonight it adjusts itself again, adding another layer to that memory. Trees may even anticipate. Some studies suggest that trees can prepare for stress before it arrives, using past cues to guide present decisions. If an early drought followed a certain winter 3 times in a row, the 4th year the tree may preemptively close stomata sooner. This is not prophecy, it is pattern recognition, biology's version of a guess, informed, cautious, quiet. You inhale now, the air tastes of leaf and loam. You're breathing not just molecules but moments, the chemical residue of a forest's memory. Even the smell of wood is memory. Tannins that once defended against bacteria, phenols produced in panic, aromatics formed under heat, now dry, now fragrant, now carried in the wind. And so the forest is not just alive, it is haunted, not by ghosts but by continuity, by persistence, by echoes that never needed a voice to be heard. And in this hour, the deepest, the stillest, the forest is not thinking, but it is remembering. And you, standing still in the hush between trees, can almost remember with it. Not facts, not names, but that feeling, that something passed here once and left its shape behind. And the tree, and you still carry it. We're still walking, but the world is standing still. The hour just before first light is the most inward of all. Even the wind seems to have curled into itself. Every needle, every leaf, every thread of bark hangs motionless, not out of inertia, but expectation. This is the hour of alignment, a time when trees, though rooted, orient themselves toward what's coming, not yet reacting to light, not yet moving sap, but preparing. And how do they know? Because trees are readers of time, not by clocks or calendars, but by shadows, angles, pulses of heat, and slivers of light that the human body cannot feel, but that trees sense with absolute precision. Tonight, we focus on their photoreceptors. Each tree, even now in full darkness, contains molecules that detect and respond to light levels, not only sunlight, but moonlight, starlight, and the gradual changes at dawn and dusk. These molecules, phytochromes and cryptochromes, are the forest timekeepers. They exist in every plant cell, and they are constantly flipping between states based on the wavelength and intensity of light they receive. By day, they are saturated with signals. By night, they slowly shift back. And in that slow shift, trees count the hours. It's how they know when to flower, when to drop their leaves, when to harden their buds, when to sleep, and when to rise. You're surrounded by time tellers that do not tick. They glow invisibly inside each cell. And right now, in the moments before light returns, they are whispering, soon. You stop beside a cherry tree, young, with smooth bark and narrow limbs. It has already begun to tilt its metabolic flow. Sugars, stored in roots through the night, are beginning to move upward again. Water pressure is beginning to rise. Its leaves, though still folded, have begun subtle chemical preparation to open again. All because of a change in photoreceptors too small to see. And it's not just about light. Trees also sense temperature with shocking acuity. They know not just how cold it is, but how cold it's been for how long. They track the length of the chill, known as chilling hours, to determine when to bud in spring. Because budding too early can be fatal. A frost can kill newborn leaves. So they wait. And only when the accumulated cold reaches a precise threshold, they allow growth to resume. You may think of trees as passive, but they are masterful tacticians. Their survival depends on not guessing, but waiting. And that waiting is guided by measurements, not in numbers but in molecules, in slow shifts of hormone levels, in gradual increases of gibberellins and cytokinins that say, the cold has lasted long enough, begin again. Even now, in this hour, those signals are forming. Beneath your feet, sap is beginning to stir. Roots begin to pulse. Leaves remain still, but the whole vascular system of the tree is leaning toward morning. You feel it under your soles, not vibration, but a kind of tension, coiled and soft. The forest is not asleep. It is bracing, stretching gently, preparing. You inhale deeply. The air is slightly warmer now, as if the planet itself is breathing out slowly before light comes. And all around you, trees are timing their breath. You step beneath an elm, wide and low. Its crown spreads like a slow exhalation, and in its branches, hormonal balances have already begun to shift. Auxins, those guiding hormones that control cell elongation, are already rising toward the tips. Florigen, the signal to initiate flowering, pulses faintly in species tuned to photoperiod. Not fast, not bright, but moving. What we call dormancy is never complete. It is always partial. It is always filled with possibility. Even now, hours before bloom, weeks before fruit, the tree is gathering itself. You look up, and though the sky is still dark, there is a subtle lightening to the east, a pale rim of silver where the stars are paling, and with it the forest stirs, not outwardly, not yet, but inwardly. Everything begins to lean toward that rim of sky. Thousands of trees, each different, each tuned to its own thresholds, begin their quiet readiness. And you feel it in your body too, that readiness, that strange ancient awareness that the night is about to release its hold, not with urgency, but with grace. You walk on, not speaking, and the trees, though still rooted, are walking with you, toward light, toward bloom, toward all the silent decisions they have made in the dark. And you realize the forest does not wake when the sun rises. It wakes before. It always knows what's coming. The edge of dawn begins not with color, but with change. You don't see it, not yet, but the forest knows. Somewhere above, photons have just begun their descent, so faint they cannot yet illuminate, but real enough to stir ancient rhythms. The trees are not waiting, they are already responding. And what unfolds now is not abrupt. It is a slow unfolding, a soft uncurling of posture, of chemistry, of breath. You stand still in a hollow ring of aspens. Their pale trunks catch no light yet, but within them pressure is rising. Sap, once still in the colder hours, is beginning its steady climb again, upward through xylem, carrying water and minerals to limbs that have not yet stretched. This movement has a name: sap ascent. It is not a pump, but a pull. Capillary action, transpiration, root pressure, all beginning their dance, even before the leaves open, even before the first bird sings. This is the moment of hydraulic anticipation, when the tree prepares its internal tides for the light that has not yet arrived. Sap is not just water, it carries memory. Dissolved sugars from the previous day, hormones travelling to signal opening, closing, growing. Minerals from the soil, rising slowly to meet the light. You walk slowly now through a corridor of beeches. Their buds are still tight, spring is far away, but their vessels have begun to widen, in readiness, in faith. Even in winter, on the coldest pre-dawn, some trees begin their cycles. In sugar maples, this is the hour when syrup begins to stir. Sugars stored in roots begin their journey upward, rising into limbs that hold no leaves. It's what allows us, weeks from now, to collect that sweetness. But the tree is not producing it for us. It is waking itself, preparing cells for photosynthesis, priming every leaf that will someday unfurl. And here, in this moment, the air begins to change. The scent of bark becomes sharper. You can almost feel the release of carbon dioxide from some leaves beginning to open. Just a few, just enough to taste the change in the air. You place your hand on a hornbeam. It is cool, but not cold, alive with internal motion, quiet sap pushing upward, invisible veins expanding with liquid life. And it's not just the vascular system waking. Inside the cells, chloroplasts, dormant, curled, begin to realign. They drift gently toward the edges of the cell where light will soon reach. It's called chloroplast migration, and it begins before light ever arrives. You walk on. Now, under an arch of hawthorns, you notice the silence has begun to crack. A single bird chirps, then another. Not song, not yet, but fragments of alertness. The forest is gathering itself, and now, finally you see it, a change in colour. The black of night is no longer absolute. It has turned to blue, a gentle, bruised blue that begins at the horizon and climbs up the trunks of the tallest trees. You look upward. Some leaves have opened, only a few, their undersides catching the earlier silver, They do not rush. They unfold slowly, like a breath held too long, finally released. What we see as sunrise is merely the moment we catch up with what the forest has already known for hours. You're walking now at the same pace as the forest, no faster, no slower. The rhythm of breath, of pulse, of soft readiness surrounds you. You come upon a clearing. The light has touched the grass. Blades shine with dew. Spiderwebs hang like threads of pearl. And at the edges, the trees. Stillness no longer. They are opening, responding, alive with photonic reception. But it is not abrupt. There is no fanfare. Only breath. Only slow ignition. The forest does not begin here. It continues. All the decisions of the night, all the repairs, the shifts, the signals, the memory, now culminate in this elegant rise. Photosynthesis will begin soon. Sugars will form. Energy will build. Growth will return. But this is the holy hour, not of work, but of arrival. The forest has opened its eyes, and so have you. The trees are awake now. But this awakening is not like ours. There is no jolt, no sudden burst, only deep continuation, a slow integration of light into living. You step into the new morning under a crown of sycamores. Their broad leaves have begun to unfurl, catching light in sheets. They do not move hurriedly. Their dance is deliberate, unfolding toward the sun they already knew would come. Because trees are not passive recipients of light, they are architects of its use. Let's pause beneath one leaf, just one. Hold your gaze there. Inside, the chloroplasts have aligned. The light split into colour and intensity enters the cells. Photons strike pigment. Energy is passed. An electron is moved. From this, everything begins. Photosynthesis is not a metaphor for life. It is the act that makes life possible. And here, in the first full light of morning, it resumes. You hear nothing. But inside every sunlit leaf around you, a chemical symphony has begun. Carbon dioxide enters through now open stomata. Water rises from deep roots, pulled upward by capillary tension. Light splits molecules. Sugars form. Oxygen is released. You inhale. That oxygen was made seconds ago, from a molecule of water split by sunlight that touched a tree leaf as you walked past. This moment is not symbolic. It is literal. The breath you just took is the breath of a tree, and that tree, in turn, is drawing in what you released. Your carbon, dissolved in exhale, is now its raw material. This is not metaphor. This is exchange, not transactional, not measured, but constant, intimate, necessary. You're part of this photosynthetic breath. Every second, every cell in your body owes its existence to light caught in leaves. And now, look at the forest around you. It has become golden. The sun has lifted above the canopy. Each tree wears the light differently. The maple glows, the cedar darkens, the silver poplar shimmers. Each leaf, depending on its structure, reflects and absorbs light in a unique way, not just aesthetically but functionally. Some trees are sun lovers, heliophytes, with leaves adapted to soak in intense light, thick and full of chloroplasts. Others are shade dwellers, psiophytes, their leaves thinner, wider, optimized for low light. Even within one tree, there is division. Leaves at the top of the canopy differ in shape and angle from those lower down. This is canopy stratification, a living architecture of light management. Trees don't just respond to light, they shape it, bend it, divide it, share it. In a mature forest, taller trees intercept much of the light, but they do not hoard it. Gaps form, sunflecks reach the forest floor. And waiting there, patient, photosynthetically idle, are shade-tolerant plants, seedlings, ferns, mosses, and they begin to stir too. It may take only 5 minutes of morning light for a tiny tree to photosynthesize enough for the day. The rest of its time is spent waiting, recovering, hoping for another sliver of sun. Photosynthesis is not always constant. It is strategic. Too much light can damage leaves, a phenomenon called photoinhibition. So some trees, especially in dry regions, adjust their angle to the sun like a solar panel on a hinge. Leaves turn, stomata close, pigments shift. Every cell is managing input, output, risk, and repair in real time. And all of this, every part of it, began before you noticed the light. You walk now toward a small glade where one young tree stands alone, a wild cherry. Its leaves are glossy, reflecting morning sun like wet stone. You pause. Here is a tree fully awake, and yet still silent. Photosynthesis does not produce sound, but it produces life. The sugars made this morning will feed not only this tree, but fungi in its roots. They'll trade nutrients for sugar. That sugar may become fruit. That fruit may fall. That fallen fruit may feed a bird. And so, in this one quiet moment of morning light, a tree creates food and shelter and future. You stand in the current of that creation. The light on your skin, the breath in your lungs, the softness in your steps, all made possible by these green alchemists of dawn. You close your eyes, and for a moment you are photosynthesizing too. Not literally, but spiritually. You're turning light into calm, stillness into energy, a morning into meaning. And when you open your eyes again, the forest does not look different. But you do. You have entered the day. But the forest has not forgotten the night. All that unfolded in darkness, the healing, the memory, the slow breath of branches, now lives quietly beneath the surface of this light. The trees do not cast it off. They carry it forward. And now, in this brightening hour, they begin the most generous act of all. They give. What was gathered overnight, what was stored in cells and tissues, what was shaped in darkness, now moves outward. The forest becomes a place of exchange. Not metaphorical, but literal, chemical, physical, ecological. You walk beneath a stand of pines and you can feel it. The scent in the air is sharper. The warmth on your arms is edged with resin. And in that resin, the forest's offerings. Because trees do not hoard. What they make, they share. Through wood, through fruit, through breath, through root. They give to fungi. They give to microbes. They give to the wind. But most of all, they give to each other. Now, just below the surface of the forest floor, something astonishing is happening. The mycorrhizal network, that vast web of fungal threads intertwined with tree roots, is fully awake, activated by the energy of the sun now streaming through leaves above. This network is not a metaphor for the internet. It is more ancient, more complex, and infinitely more alive. Through it, trees pass not just water and nutrients, but signals, instructions, warnings, sometimes even sugars. One tree basking in full sun may funnel some of its energy down through its roots and across the network to another tree in shadow. A mother tree, the largest, oldest in the grove, may direct resources to its own seedlings, buried deep in the dark. They are too small to photosynthesize enough, so she shares, not out of sentiment, out of system. Trees understand their community, and in the language of carbon and nitrogen, they act on that understanding. You pause beside a Douglas fir, tall, rough, breathing out the warmth of light collected. Beneath it, you notice a cluster of saplings, not all its own. Some are from other species, yet they benefit from the fir's presence. In drought, this tree might send water to them. In stress, it might warn them. In calm, it might offer nothing, just presence. Even the roots of different species intertwine here. Maple with oak, fir with beech, not always friends, but always connected. And above ground, the generosity continues. A fruit ripens, a nut falls, a seed pod bursts. That maple key you stepped over, that was a gift, not to you, but to gravity, to wind, to soil. And if the conditions are right, it will root. If not, it will feed the ground. Nothing in the forest is wasted. Even leaf fall is a form of giving. Each leaf that spirals down becomes nutrient. Its death is a release. Its decay is the beginning of another cycle. And in the morning light you can see it. The glint of fungal threads beneath leaf litter. The damp richness of decomposing bark. The soft crumble of time made fertile. What looks like death is transfer. What looks like stillness is flow. You kneel beside a fallen log. It is coated in moss. Insects shift just under the surface, and inside, unseen, threads of fungus pull nutrients from the wood and carry them, cell by cell, toward nearby roots. The tree is gone, but it is still giving. And in this, the forest teaches something rare: to give without needing thanks, to nourish without knowing the outcome, to offer energy into the system because that is what keeps the system alive. Not altruism, integration. The forest does not ask who deserves, it gives because that is what living does. You walk on past a birch whose papery bark curls in the sun, its leaves flicker, and in their flickering they exchange heat, slow evaporation, manage the flow of air beneath the canopy. Even this movement, creates opportunity for life. Underneath that flutter, small plants grow. In the shade of giants, lichens bloom. In the curve of a fallen branch, a pool forms. Mosquitoes hatch, frogs find water, owls find frogs. Every gesture becomes provision. You sit now at the edge of a clearing. The grass here is thick. Clover curls into the sun. The air is filled with more than light. It is filled with gifts, oxygen, shade, shelter, song. And somewhere, beneath all this giving, you notice the way your body responds. You're breathing deeper. Your shoulders have fallen. Your mind has slowed. This too is part of the gift. The forest alters you, not with instruction, but with invitation. You don't need to be a tree to give like one. You only need to belong to the world in the way they do. Rooted, open, responsive, quiet. You lie back now. The forest no longer surrounds you. It holds you. The ground beneath is soft, damp with dew, alive with millions of unseen hands exchanging minerals, molecules, intentions. Above, the canopy flickers with dappled light, and all around you, the trees breathe in silence. This moment, stretched between waking and the movement of day, invites something deeper, reflection, not of the mind, but of the body, of the way your breath has come to match the rhythm of the forest. You have followed trees through night. You've listened to their movements, their signals, their invisible work. Now you begin to feel them not as background, but as beings. Because trees are not structures, they are lives. Long, slow, patient lives that carry weight and wisdom beyond the span of human time. There's a red oak nearby, thick-trunked. Its limbs rise like cathedral arches, strong and quiet. It may be over 100 years old, which means it has lived through generations, storms, clearings, regrowth. Moments of silence like this one, repeated year after year. and though it has stood in one place, it has changed more than most travellers ever will. This is the truth of trees. They are dynamic, not despite their stillness, but because of it. They grow not by running forward, but by holding steady, by deepening, by widening, by adapting from within. You watch a squirrel leap from one limb to another. The branch bends slightly, then returns. Resilience. That limb holds weight because its structure is flexible. It grew in the wind. It knows how to yield. And beneath that limb, the bark, deeply furrowed, records 100 seasons, not smooth, not perfect, but strong because of its imperfections. You realize now, trees are not symbols of strength because they never break. They are symbols of strength because they do, and then continue. They lose limbs, they suffer rot, they bend in storms, and yet they persist. What humans call flaws, trees call adaptation. A scar in bark becomes a home for insects. A hollow trunk becomes a nursery for owls. A leaning body allows for better sun. Nothing is wasted, nothing is hidden. Everything is absorbed into the shape of the living. You turn your gaze toward a cluster of young saplings. Their stems are thin, but they are fierce in their upward reach. Each has grown differently, twisting slightly to find light, adjusting to shadows cast by siblings, rooting in odd angles to avoid rocks or pockets of dry earth. They are not uniform, but they are each exactly what the forest asked them to become, and you, watching them, feel the tension between your own desire for control and the tree's practice of surrender. Not passive, but attentive. The trees do not command the light, they move toward it. They do not order the rain, they receive it. They do not fear the wind, they shape themselves around it. This is not weakness, it is mastery. To respond, to reshape, to remain. A bird calls overhead, soft, then gone. Its wings leave no trace, but the forest holds the memory of such flights, just as it holds yours, your breath, your footsteps, your presence now. For though the forest is made of individuals, it lives as a whole, tree to tree, leaf to root, signal to signal, and you have entered that whole. Your presence here matters. You have inhaled the oxygen made by a leaf. You have exhaled carbon now moving through a root system. You are part of this economy of exchange, and always were, not an observer, a participant. You do not need to speak. You do not need to move. You only need to remain, still, like a tree, breathing. You rise but slowly, as if the forest has loaned you part of its stillness, and it lingers in your bones. Now, with the light full above, everything around you is in motion. Not fast, not loud, but steady, persistent. The quiet work of trees continuing without interruption, unshaken by your attention or your absence. You step into a stand of alders beside a stream. The water moves with purpose, reflecting the shimmer of leaves, but the trees along its edge hold their own kind of movement, internal, rhythmic, almost tidal. The day has begun, and so has transpiration. It sounds technical, but in essence it's this. Trees are drinking and breathing. Roots draw in water from the soil. That water moves upward through xylem tubes, thin capillary channels stretching from earth to crown, and once in the leaves the water evaporates through tiny pores, stomata, and re-enters the atmosphere. But in the process something larger happens. A pressure gradient forms, a kind of suction, and that pull draws more water upward, keeping the cycle alive. This is the tree's heartbeat, not with chambers and valves, but with sun, leaf, and sky. And through this process, slow, steady, invisible, entire forests move moisture from the ground into the air. They are not just part of the water cycle, they drive it. Large forests like the Amazon create their own weather, recycling humidity through massive transpiration. The same happens here, in smaller ways, beneath the canopy you now stand under. The trees do not simply grow beneath the sky, they lift water into it. You feel it now, the air becoming heavier, not with heat, but with breath, tree breath. Moisture released not in gasps, but in a steady whisper. Every leaf a little mouth, every branch a lung, every crown a cathedral of silent exhalation. You step closer to the stream. A willow leans over it, its roots tangled like hair submerged in memory. This willow's leaves are narrow, dancing slightly in the breeze, and they are sweating, not like skin, but like surrender. Each droplet lost is part of a greater system. They flow upward, outward, return to the clouds. Trees do not fear loss. They are made to give, and in giving, to move the world. You look up at the canopy now. High above, the tallest crowns sway slightly. Their branches arch with light, and you know, water is flowing up those trunks, defying gravity not through force but through balance. Because trees do not fight the world, they work with it. They use sun to move water, they use roots to find stability, they use stillness to reach. This is not submission, it is participation. You sit now beneath a walnut tree. Its bark is thick, scored, its roots are deep. This tree, you know, is a hydraulic engineer. Its root system explores not just space but time, holding moisture from weeks past, distributing it to upper limbs even as the sun pulls it skyward. And all of this, every pulse of water, every sigh of vapor, is part of a greater truth. Forests are not passive collections of trees. They are coordinated systems of flow. They shape water, they shape air, they shape each other, and now they shape you. Because as you breathe here, among them, your own lungs begin to mirror theirs. Inhale, exhale. Vapor leaves you. Vapor leaves the leaves. You are no different. The same molecules that rise from the crown of a sycamore drift into your nose. The same moisture lost through stomata cools your skin. Your body recognizes this air, not as foreign, but as home. You rise again, and as you walk, you begin to see it everywhere. Every leaf is part of this flow. Every root is drawing. Every crown is giving. And above it all, clouds are beginning to form. Moisture, released hours ago from this very forest, has joined with others, rising, gathering, ready to fall again. The forest does not hold on to anything. What it receives, it transforms. What it transforms, it releases. And what it releases, it receives again. This too is what you are learning, not just about trees, but about being alive. You return to where you began, though the path has changed, and so have you. The sun is now high, casting strong light through the canopy, but the forest does not blaze. It glows. Light moves in shafts, not floods. Shadows ripple like thought. Every leaf seems sharper, more articulate, as if it had been waiting for this hour to reveal its fullest self. This is the height of the forest day. Photosynthesis is in full swing. Water is flowing. Sugars are being made, stored, moved. Signals pulse from root to crown. But there is no noise, only rhythm. And here, in this vast web of quiet labour, a new awareness emerges. Trees are not alone, not just in the sense that they grow together, but in the way they perceive together, in the way they respond together, in the way they form relationships across species, ages, and kingdoms of life. You stop beside a pair of beech trees. They have grown side by side for decades, maybe longer. Their trunks curve slightly toward each other. Their roots are entangled, And though separate beings, they behave as if one. They shade one another. They time their fruiting to avoid competition. If one is injured, the other responds, sending sugars, sending defense signals, even slowing its own growth in solidarity. This is not metaphor. This is measured. And yet it defies our usual definitions of intelligence. The trees are not planning. They are responding, not consciously, but not blindly either. They are part of a communal mind, not a brain, but a network. Each root, each fungal strand, each leaf, each signal, taken alone, they mean little. But together, they create coherence. Like neurons in a brain, they spark meaning only in pattern. And the forest is rich in pattern. You walk deeper, now in older growth. The trees here are thicker, taller, wiser. Some have lived through a century of storms. Some have survived fire, regrown from scorched roots. Others have died, but not vanished. Their fallen trunks nourish fungi. Their rotting cores shelter insects. Their absence opens sky for saplings. Even in death, the tree remains part of the forest's thinking. Nothing is lost. Everything continues, and you begin to sense this is not a landscape. It is a being. You're inside something living, not a collection of lives, a single life expressed in 1,000 voices. A hummingbird passes, its wings blur, its shadow crosses a patch of moss, and that moss, that delicate velvet, is its own universe of interaction. There, tiny sporophytes stretch toward the light. Spores drift on air too subtle for skin to feel. Ants tunnel beneath it, shifting the earth. Even the smallest part of the forest thinks, reacts, remembers. You rest now beneath a larch, its needles golden in late season. You run your hand across the bark, rough and flaking, alive with memory. And you wonder, what does this tree know? Not in words, not in names, but in presence. It knows what the wind feels like at this elevation. It knows where the roots find water. It knows the insects that crawl across its skin. It knows the pressure of snow, the burn of summer, the call of birds. It knows what it is to be this tree, here, now. And somehow, that is enough. You look up, one last time. The canopy dances. Light flashes between leaves. A crow glides overhead. The forest is fully awake. It is alive with movement, yes, but more than that, it is alive with knowing. Not knowledge in books, not data, but living awareness. And as you prepare to leave, you realize you have entered that awareness. You have touched the edge of it, and it will never quite leave you. You are part of the pattern now, not an observer, but a thread. You breathe. The forest breathes, and in that shared breath, there is no ending, only return. Now. The forest begins to soften again. The day, once high and golden, starts its long, slow exhale. Light fades gently, curling through the canopy like a final whisper. Shadows grow longer. The leaves, so open in the sun, begin to quiet their breath. The trees do not sleep all at once. They wind down, slowly, deliberately, like you. The pulse of photosynthesis slows. Stomata begin to close. Transpiration stills. Sugars settle into roots. The forest doesn't end its day. It releases it, gently. And here you are, wrapped once more in that hush between things, between light and dark, between movement and rest, between thought and dream. Beneath your fingertips the bark is cooler now, the scent of pine deeper, the sound of wind more like breath than motion. Everything quiets, and in that quiet something ancient rises, a feeling of being held, of being safe, of belonging, not to a world of urgency, but to one of rhythms. You lie down once more beneath the trees. Their branches rise above like cathedral vaults, each one shaped by time, by wind, by memory. And above that, sky, darkening, softening, inviting. The stars will come, the owls will stir, and the trees will begin again their secret life of night, and so will you. Let your breath grow slow, let your limbs grow heavy, let your thoughts fade like mist above the forest floor. You have walked with trees, you have breathed with them, you have heard what they whisper in the dark. There is no need to hold anything now, only rest. The forest continues, gently, quietly, forever.